Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. I'm your host, Chris Fuller, and on today's episode, one of our favorite guests is back today, Austin McCoy, and we're going to be talking about calling, culture, and the next generation, and how we as Christians can impact the next generation coming up by walking their faith journey with them. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let's go. Welcome back to RTC. So excited about tonight's episode. I was reminded as I was kind of thinking about this episode and knowing that Austin was coming on and of Psalm 145, and it talks about one generation shall commend your works to another. And that kind of got me thinking about today's youth and how we should really surround our youth, not just as a program, but maybe it's a calling to steward the next generation. And as I was thinking about this, Austin was like, hey, man, I want to come on and jump on the podcast. I'm like, you know what? You deal with youth. So let's talk about that. So please help me welcome back to the show for the second episode in a row, which I absolutely love, Mr. Austin McCoy. How you doing tonight, Austin?
I am still doing great. So.
Time of recording it's back to back, but for the other weeks. So,
yeah.
But man, thanks for coming back on for a
Absolutely.
second episode with me. Definitely appreciate it. And what an impactful episode this last episode you did with us and sharing your testimony, and we talked about the vulnerability of it. And I really do appreciate you being on and talk about that. And we kind of touched base a little bit on youth and the importance of the youth and how actually a set of parents pouring into their children affected your family. And I'm looking forward to this conversation for this episode. But before we can get into that, I have a game for us tonight. It's an old RTC classic of Would You Rather. All right. So I don't know if you guys remember, but early on, and I think it was like season 3 or season 4 of RTC, we used to play this game called Would You Rather. So we're going to bring it back tonight for Austin. So Austin, would you rather eat a handful of hair or lick 3 public telephones?
I think the hair, because
all right.
Hopefully I can choose whose it is. I don't know.
25% of people agree with you. 75%
really?
They would rather lick 3 public telephones.
No.
Gross. All right. Here's the next one. Would you rather be the person who achieves world peace for 500 years or the person who cures cancer?
Cancer.
All right.
Cancer.
71% of Americans or people that play this game agree with you that they would rather cure cancer than peace for 500 years. I think that's kind of important. Like,
yeah,
a lot of people, get sick with cancer. So it'd be awesome to cure that. All right, let's do another one. Would you rather have Iron Man's suit or have Iron Man's money?
I'd say the money, because of the stuff you can do with it.
72% of people agree with you. I would agree with you as well, because you can do a lot more with the money than the suit. Although the suit is cool, but maybe you could just buy the suit with the money. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
All right. Let's do one more here. Would you rather boost your intelligence by 5% or boost your charisma by 5%?
Well, as someone who has no idea how good my charisma actually is.
It's decent.
But I think intelligence, I think it's always good to keep learning and getting smarter. So
absolutely,
we can increase that a little bit.
I would agree with you. 70% of people agree with you also. So that's our Would You Rather. Just something fun, lighthearted to do. It helps people get to kind of know you and get into your brain a little bit. Don't worry, we are judging now.
Right, exactly.
So, we talked about last time how you were drinking the 7 Weeks coffee.
Yep.
I was drinking the Kalamazoo Company, and it was like a punch in the face, almost like Folgers. Not quite as bad, but pretty close. I switched over to the Guava Berry Waterloos. Which if you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, we're a Waterloo crew over here. That's what we drink. So Austin, what are you drinking?
I am now drinking iced tea.
Sweet or unsweet?
It's sweet. It's homemade, so I like use the bags and everything.
Nice.
So I get it from a company called Y'all's, and then you can add as much sugar as or none if you want it to be unsweet. So
yeah,
I put in like 3/4 of a cup into a whole gallon. So
I used to grow up. When I used to grow up, my mom, and I don't know if your parents ever did this. My mom used to have the glass like gallon jar. She'd put the bags in it, put it outside, make sun tea. Did you ever have a kid growing up?
I did not. No, I've never. My parents
that might just be that might be an Indiana, Michigan thing, but my mom used to be like they put the tea in the summer, put the tea bags in this big gallon jug of water, and you'd stick it outside for the day, and it would stay out and it'd brew all day in the sun, and the sun would heat up the water in the glass jar. And then that would brew your tea, and then you would bring it in the next day, and then you would, mix whatever amount of sugar if you wanted sugar or drink it unsweetened. We liked to put a lemon in it, and then everybody had different sweetness tastes. So then you would add sugar as you got your glass. But it was a family staple back in the day. Delicious. So but the problem with it is that you have to wait 24 hours before you can drink it. So you're just sitting there all day going, I really want some iced tea right now, and I can't even have it.
Usually when you make that decision, it's like, I'm craving it. So
it's like you don't go and bake a cake to be like, I'm going to wait till tomorrow to eat that cake. You're like, as soon as it comes out of the oven, I'm going to put some frosting on that bug, and I'm going to chomp right into it with my fork. So, well, let's dive into, I got a review real fast to read, and then I want to jump into this topic because like I said, I am so motivated about stewarding our youth today, and I'm just looking forward to this conversation. This review tonight comes from USMC Wife and Mom. It says Diana. I'm guessing that's who it is. 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed this podcast station, and keep up what God has for you both. God bless. Diana, I'm guessing that's your name. Thank you for that review. If you have not got one of our swag bags yet, reach out to us with your name and address, and we will get you a free mini swag bag for the review. If you haven't left a review yet, don't forget to head over to Apple iTunes and Spotify and leave us that review and let us know you did that, so you can get your mini swag bag free. That's the cool thing, right? It's always free.
Thank your husband and your son or daughter, whoever's in the Marines, for their service.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Wife and mom. So yeah, husband, son, daughter. Thank you. You know what? I didn't say that last time. Thank you for your service in the Navy. Jeez, I'm really losing it here. All right. My brother-in-law was in the Army, so it's like, you just kind of grow accustomed to it after a while, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
When you know a military person.
Yeah. You kind of like, oh yeah. So, man, that sucks that I forgot that. Anyways, thank you for your service. So let's dive into this topic a little bit about youth. And as we heard last episode, and if you haven't listened to the last episode, episode 286, go back to that now, and you can hear Austin's testimony of kind of where he came from and what God brought him through it and brought him to where he is today. But Austin, you work with your youth ministry, You're pretty involved in your youth ministry.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty involved. Yeah.
Just a smidgen. I mean, slightly. I wouldn't put you quite as like, way up here with it, but you're not like way down here. You're like right here with it. Wait, that's
right.
I mean, no, you're the leader of your youth ministry.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I'm the student director is technically my role at.
You're fancy. You're fancy.
Yeah, they made it fancy. They made it fancy.
Director. So, obviously, this is something near and dear to your heart. This is a calling that God has called you to. I want to start off tonight's conversation to talk about a little bit about that and about how you kind of got drawn into that ministry. Mm-hmm. What made you decide youth one, and how did God call you into that ministry? What did that look like for you?
Okay, so I'd say very shortly after I was saved, I saw. I don't know if you can hear my kids in the background.
Oh yeah, it's okay. We're okay with that. I heard my kids stomping around. So,
but No, I lost my train of thought.
It
Uh,
happens, man. It
um,
happens.
so shortly after I was saved, so my youth pastor growing up, who had obviously an influence somewhat, was planting seeds, was stepping away, like retiring, I guess you could say. So they were throwing like a celebration for him,
Mhm.
and it came at a time where I could go back home and visit and be there to just tell him thank you and kind of tell him what just transpired over the past month of my life. So that was a bit of an influence. I think that's when I first started kind of thinking about it, but then it was more or less that's all it was a thought, and then I was like, that's not me, because I'm introverted, and I was like, I always thought youth leaders had to be like Mark, right? Like
Yeah.
super talkative, outgoing, like you know
Energy.
what I mean. So so it was over the course of the next like few months, at the church we started going to. Me and Kayla stepped into volunteering pretty quickly. So I started volunteering as like a greeter, just
Mhm.
at the beginning,
An
like parking
introverted
lot
greeter.
crew. Yeah, I know. It was a role they needed filled, so
Way to
I
step out
wanted
there,
to.
though. Way to step
Yeah,
out.
I wanted to step out. I wanted to do something that was a little like, I don't know, against the grain of
Yeah.
what I'd been. So
Yeah.
um started as a greeter, which was fun. I enjoyed that, and like it was good to help people in the parking lot and everything like that. But
Yeah.
it was during that time I was also like felt like drawn that I could do more. So I was praying about that. And it was literally seemed like every time I prayed, I kept getting like youth leader in my head, like
Mm.
pretty solid. Like, and I was just like, nope. To be completely honest, I was like, that's because I had that stigma in my head. I was like, I'm not, I'm introverted. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way, like, the
I'm
kids
not
would
Mark.
even, right. There's no way the kids would want to be around me. Like, those type of thoughts I got
Yeah.
in my head. So, and then like, me and Kayla went through our baptism at our church, they did like a testimonial style, so you give
Mhm.
like a brief synopsis of how you got like found Christ and everything.
Yeah.
So it was like after I shared that, and praying and kept getting those, the actual student leader of that church came up to me after service, and he's like, I think you'd be a really good youth leader. So it was just kind of like that. God used that to kind of solidify. So I was just like, okay, I keep getting the same thought every time I
Yeah.
pray about it. And then the youth leader comes up to me and says I'd be a good fit for it. So that's kind of how I got drawn to it.
Yeah.
But whenever I felt it was like an actual calling, I would say was probably I would say the first night I actually volunteered. So whenever I showed up there, I don't know exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I was nervous and all the things. So like, but the faithful students, like the ones that were on the right track and everything, and how they like welcomed me into the group and just included me as part of it, and then were like already asking me questions and looking up to me was like I don't know, it was kind of a cool like confirming like this is what you need to be doing type of
Yeah.
thing. I think I remember going home after that, and Kayla asked me how it went, and I was like, "It was great."
Yeah.
I was like,
Surprisingly.
and not anything like I expected it to be. But like I was just from that point, I was kind of hooked.
Yeah.
You know.
So what led you from that volunteer state to being like, all right, I'm going to be the director of youth. I'm going to walk into that next door that's open.
So saying yes to God when He calls you to do something is a big part of that. So I'll give a little bit of a story, like a preface of how that all happened. So like after I started volunteering, um, the current leader, him and his wife got pregnant, and then their family lived like west. I forget exactly where, but I know it was like over an hour away. So they just felt like they needed to move back home because they didn't
Mhm.
have any family around, and they just felt called back. And then he's back there now doing. He's in a bigger church now, I think, but I think he's still leading like middle school youth. So, but he got called away. Ended up bringing in a new leader straight out of college. She was a huge influence, but she was also a huge encourager of like having other people speak to the students.
Mm-hmm.
So like she would do obviously the majority of the teachings, but then she would also ask us as leaders, like, would any of you want to get up on the stage and just, share? She's like, I can give you like an outline of the lesson plan or whatever, what for the series we're doing. Or I think there was a time I just shared like some of my testimony, not as in depth, obviously, as what I just did, but
Right.
so like that first night when I did that, I was like super nervous, like hands shaking, like voice
Holding the mic,
shaking, But I don't know. It was like when I did that, and then afterwards, and I thought it was probably not any good or a disaster. And some of especially the boys, came up to me afterwards because we'd go into like small groups after the lesson and just kind of discuss questions or topics that involve lesson or whatever.
Yeah.
And a couple of the boys said how like it was a good message and how they were encouraged by it. So
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, okay, well that's cool. Like that it impacted them in that way.
Absolutely.
So that was a stepping stone, right? And then that led to there was just some stuff that kind of happened after that. She ended up leaving shortly. She didn't stick around very long. It was kind of a weird, messy situation that obviously I'm not going to get into here, but
no,
but,
we need to get into it.
but so, and then our associate pastor at the time, who I'm really, really good friends with now, um, we ended up like golfing and stuff, just like I said, I think last time when you asked me how one of my hobbies. So we were golfing and we were just talking about God and the church and everything like that. And he told me how he just asked me if I ever saw myself in any type of like ministry role. And it caught me a little off guard. I was like, no, not really. And he was like, really? Because I was praying about it and I just see you and your wife eventually being in some sort of ministry role. So that was kind of another seed that was planted for that. He ended up becoming a lead pastor at the church I'm currently at. So eventually, when he left, we didn't like follow him right away or anything. We were still at our old church probably for I don't know 10 months to a year.
Okay,
I can't remember the time frame. Still volunteering, and at that point, they didn't hire another like student leader. So we just kind of like rotated with the youth leaders as far as like messages and prepping. So it kind of like built up my courage and like also like helped me learn how to message prep and like kind of made me start thinking about like if I was in charge, like how I would do things and how I felt like God wanted things to be done and vice versa. And so it got to a point like where me and Caleb both just kind of, for some reason, we felt like the Holy Spirit just pulling us away from the current place we were at. We didn't know exactly where that was going to be at. So we ended up going and exploring some different churches, services and stuff. We actually went to New Life, I think, a couple times. Just seeing, and that was actually where I think we wanted to go, if I should say that. So like, because I was like, they have a good student thing. I can probably hop right in there and get involved.
Michael and all them guys are great.
Yeah, so I still knew like I wanted to be in students, no doubt, without a doubt in my mind. But I was just praying about it, and then I ended up meeting Ryan for lunch and telling him kind of what was going on. We were just talking, and then I went to his service because like I almost tried to avoid it because I didn't want it to influence my decision. In a weird, I don't know how to explain it, but we ended up going. Like that was the first time I went to one of his services in person. And then his message, I was just kind of taking it all in when I was there, like what he's done since he's got there. He's trying to like revitalize a dying church. So it's just definitely a hard thing that we're
Absolutely.
going through right now. But so he had a youth leader that stepped in, and he was, helping with that. So I was like praying about it. I listened to a podcast literally the next day, and just what they were talking about was like how Jesus was walking on the water, right?
Yeah.
And they call out like, "Who is it?" And he made the point that like Jesus, he didn't yell out, "It's me, Jesus." He just said, "It is I," because like when you become followers of Christ, you start learning His voice, right? And you start learning like what the Holy Spirit's telling you
Yep.
as you grow in your faith. So like it was as soon as he said like, "It is I," like that, I knew right then. It was almost like the Holy Spirit just like hit me in the chest again. Got a
Mm.
little teary eyed, and I was like, I know where I'm supposed to be. So it was like I felt called to Bethany. I told Kayla that, and she was like, "That's funny because my Bible reading I've been doing this week has been talking about when Jesus is going back to Bethany,
Mm.
going back to Bethany." So that's
Oh,
the name of
yes,
the
Lord.
church I'm at, is Bethany. So
Little
it
hint.
was just those little things,
Yeah.
So I told Ryan that. I was like, I think we're going to start coming. We are going to start coming to Bethany. We feel called. So I was like, I just want to help with students in whatever way you that is. I don't know. I just know I want to be part of it. And
Yeah.
he's like, that's funny because Todd actually wants to step into a different role, like an
Mm.
executive pastor, associate pastor role. He's
Yeah.
like, would you want to take over students? Like, so this was after I already made the decision. It wasn't like it was offered to me, like,
Yeah.
and I
Like,
was like,
okay, I suppose.
whoa. Like, I was like, yeah, I was taken aback. That's for sure. I was definitely like it became pretty serious and real at that
Yeah.
point. So
Absolutely.
I don't think it took very much time, but I was like, yeah, I'll take that over.
Yeah.
And then we eventually like we took a little bit of a break over the summer, and then we've relaunched it this past September. So
Yeah.
and
So
been doing it since.
as you're getting into this, um, I see throughout scripture, we see, Paul as he's encouraging Timothy in First Timothy, about his youth and, about all of this. And we see how our youth today is struggling with so many things that I would say you and I, as millennials, didn't have to
Right.
deal with. We
Right.
didn't have screens constantly everywhere all the time
Hmm.
for our entire lives, but they do. What are some things that you think that maybe kids are struggling with today that we need to really watch and try to help shape um, the different avenue? What avenues should we help try to shape them in, and what kind of technology could we use to keep them occupied and interested in what we're teaching?
Um,
I don't
Social
know.
media is obviously like a
Right.
huge thing with kids. And the phones and all the stuff, like you said, we didn't really have that. I mean, I had a cell phone in high school, but it was like a slide,
Oh,
flipped open. Like
I had
all
the
I could
Boost
do on it
Mobile
was
Brick.
text and call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had the Boost Mobile Brick. You got to, type the numbers 18 billion times to send a text.
Right. So I think like the first iPhone came out when I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school, and I didn't have one of those until I graduated anyway, because
Yeah,
my parents weren't going to pay for it. So,
right.
um, yeah, we didn't have that influence that a lot of the kids have now. So I think we need to definitely like be aware of the social media influences, the worldly influences that come through social media and through everything that's on a screen with ads. They're always pushing worldly, secular thoughts and ideas, and especially like identity ideas and stuff like that, and just like false gospels, that
Yeah,
they promise the world, and happiness is first and the only thing that matters, which we know that's not how it happens. And that's not true. So
Yeah.
I think just like stepping into that and just, I think it's important as me as a youth pastor to be vulnerable. I know growing up, like I didn't like I didn't have very many questions because I came to a church that just seemed like everybody showed up with their Sunday best, and they didn't talk about anything that went on in their lives. It was just church talk, I
Yeah.
guess. So I
Yeah.
think it's important to be vulnerable with the students, let them know like you're not perfect either,
Yeah.
so that they're like, hey, he struggled with this in his past, or
Having those
vice
real
versa.
conversations and stuff.
Yes, having real one-on-one conversations,
Yeah.
making sure like I try to make sure my youth aren't completely like sucked up into their phones.
Yeah.
We use it. So we do send out daily Bible scriptures and stuff to
Mm.
like our students. I
Yeah.
think that's important to see that they're getting a positive influence, godly influence throughout their week. That's outside of their school and other possible negative influences they could be getting.
Yeah. So we see this in this digital age, there are so many screens and stuff like that. How do you balance when you're at youth group, having those serious one-on-one conversations, but also making it fun? If you're just constantly having those one-on-one conversations to teenagers, I know what me as a teenager, I'd be like, all right, I get it. God loves me. How do you keep it fun and keep the interest alive while you're still really pouring into each one of these kids?
Yeah, I mean, showing them you love them, I think is huge.
Yeah.
So just like showing interest in their personal life, not just like where they are spiritually, but actually showing interest in their personal life, being there for events and stuff like that. If they see you out and about, like especially at school events, like if you go to like for me, my kids go to Gymtown, and a lot of my students go to Gymtown. So if I'm at like a
Yeah.
football game and they see me, they think that's cool. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but like they're like, oh, that's my youth leader.
You're like,
So,
yes, yes, I am.
but yeah, just showing interest in their life, and then like at students, I like to. We usually do like a free time at the beginning.
Mhm.
So just like games. So
Yeah.
like right now with it being wintertime, it's a lot of board games or like card games and stuff. Just
Gotcha.
getting them interacting with each other,
Yeah.
and there we can just kind of fill in and talk and interact with them in that way. And then we do like a focus game, which is like more of a group game, in that we try to keep it fun that way. So whether it's silly things, which is usually what it is at youth group,
Sure.
right? Or like
Yeah.
we've been playing sardines the past few weeks because they love that. It's just I don't know why. I guess
That's
because they get
interesting.
to run throughout the whole church.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
but
Hey, whatever works, right?
whatever works, and yeah, exactly. That keeps them. I don't know. It seems to help because we've grown pretty well since since the start, and just showing you care, you love, and that they have a positive influence and they can have fun also while learning about Jesus. On the flip side of that too is obviously a huge thing.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like most of the rest of the church that maybe not be directly involved with the youth ministry knows kind of what's going on and how important really youth ministry is into pouring into these kids at all, or do you feel like there is
Um,
this connection between the church adults and the youth?
there's that, I think for sure. There's still a disconnect, especially at the one I'm at now, because we're still, I think, like I said earlier, we're kind of trying to rebuild,
Right.
revitalize,
Yeah.
and reach that community in a
Mhm.
way it hasn't been reached in a very, very long time. So there is a little bit of that separation. Like I'll be honest, the majority of my students that come to my youth group don't go to church Sunday mornings. Like
Mm.
they're not. I mean, a few of them are, but
Sure.
a lot of them are just there because either friends invited them, or so there is that disconnect
Yeah.
between what's going on. And we've talked about that a little bit with my lead pastor
Yeah.
and associates, and kind of had like brainstorming of how like we get involved and do that stuff, because like our budget for students isn't super great right now.
Yeah, it's usually the
So
least
like
amount of a budget.
eventually, right, right. So eventually, like there might be that Sunday morning where I might have to get up and hopefully just ask, like, hey, we need X, Y, and Z to make this happen for youth. We want to make this happen. We want to get them involved,
Yeah,
and vice
yeah,
versa. But it's not like that everywhere. So, like the church I came from,
sure.
youth was very well integrated
Yeah,
with everything. Like we had students that were involved on the worship team on Sunday mornings and
nice.
tech team and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So that is something I hope and pray that our church gets to, is the students actually being part of the bigger body
yeah.
as well as just students on Mondays.
Do you think that the church at large realizes the importance of really pouring into the youth and kind of really raising up this next generation? The next gen is, I'm sure you've heard about it being in the electricians union. We
Right.
talk about it in the USW all the time. It was the next gen conference. It's all about, raising up the next generation of steelworkers for us, for you'd be electricians. But do you think we take the same seriousness in the church of raising up the next gen of the church? Or is it more of like, well, it's something for them to do. They don't quite understand the doctrines. We disassociate with them. I'm thinking about my own life and how I interact with the youth, and I try to interact from here to there. But again, like you said early on, you felt like, oh man, I'm not cool. They're gonna be, I'm lame. Come on, I'm an old guy. I've got gray in my
Yeah.
beard. And I think that maybe we as a church disassociate, not because we don't want to raise up the next generation, but because we feel like, oh, well, the things we talk about are too advanced, or we don't know how to fully relate to them. Or
Right.
do you feel like that there's some of that struggle going on right now? And if so, what are some ideas that maybe you have that could break down those barriers?
Yes and no. So I mean, like I said, like some churches are good at it, at
Yeah,
involving their students and integrating it. I don't really know as far as like the church as the global church
sure.
how that really works.
Mm-hmm.
I know from some of the people I listen to on podcasts or sermons throughout the week, and how I know that they try to involve their youth, and I think they do a good job of that. But like, yes, as far as like locally, I obviously want it to be better. But I think like volunteer things help bridge that gap a lot. So
Like serving
when
together.
yeah, serving together, I think is a big, big thing that can help bridge the gap between the teens and the adults, as you would say. And then realizing like, yeah, sometimes it can get heavy on a Sunday morning teaching versus the teachings we can do in
Yeah.
students, because we don't always know where each one of those students lands or where they're coming from. They might have no idea anything
Yeah.
about the Bible.
Well, and
So
even speaking from your own past, I mean, you were going to a youth group
yeah,
and weren't even coming from a Christian family. And I find that often, like in Sunday sermons, or like even in my small group, when we do small group, I call it, I mean, it's a common term that's used as Christianese, right? It's
yeah,
its own language. We start talking.
yeah, and we don't even realize we're using some of
No,
the words half the time.
exactly. Yeah. I'll be like, oh, Christ justified us. And then through the Holy Spirit sanctification, these kids are like, what? Or even new believers. I watch even new believers like look at me and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I think I just went too far with my Christianese. Let me break this down for you.
Yeah,
But youth don't have the same, and you talked about this in the last episode. You don't want to ask questions because you don't want to seem stupid. You don't want to seem
right,
like you don't know what's going on.
right, especially around their peers.
Exactly. And so how do we bring it down, these high lofty, I mean, there's a lot of doctrines that the Bible
Yeah.
teaches. How do we bring that down to their level, and really what do you see that really resonates with the youth today from scripture?
Um, so something that I was talking to my lead pastor about, he's a former youth leader before he stepped into his other roles.
Mm-hmm.
So he said the thing he noticed too, and I've started noticing as well, is like youth really resonate with identity right now. So like showing them that tells us like who we are in Christ and all these things, and like we can have an identity in Jesus
Yeah.
and all that stuff. That showing them they're loved. I actually have some notes here written down somewhere. Yeah. So and then giving them a purpose. I think purpose-driven scriptures are a big deal for them,
Mhm.
especially some kids are may not feel like they have any purpose
Yeah.
for whatever reason that is, and showing them that God has a purpose for them and that they have a purpose for being there, and using those verses to bring them in, and then also like showing them like they belong. So the verses on different verses of belonging and stuff, and where do they fit into the whole big C church,
Yeah.
movement type of thing. So I think like speaking to their identity, purpose, and belonging is big in teenagers.
Do you think that it's because of those things that maybe that's why depression, suicide is on such a rampant page right now amongst the youth? I mean, I think
Yeah,
it's youth, nationwide right now, and I look at from cyberbullying and people,
yeah,
taking their lives, and just the huge amounts of depression that go on. You believe it's because of these things of not knowing who they are, their identity. We look
right.
at identity crisis. We see in the schools, that you got the furries, you've got the transgenderism, you got
Yep,
all these. So they're struggling with the identity, and then also, like you were saying, that they don't feel like they have a purpose. Why am I here? Why
right,
why
right.
was I born? Type of thing. So
Hmm.
you're saying that really resonates with them right now, and I can see that.
Yeah,
So how do we come? And you kind of talked about it a little bit, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into it, of coming alongside of them and really showing them who Christ is in them, and their purpose really is here on earth to, one, to glorify God, and really
hmm,
two, to show others to Christ. Those are the two main
yeah,
purposes we see in Scripture. Um, and how does that look how do they receive it? I guess when you're talking about these things with them, like you don't have to go into specifics of people, but are
right.
they receptive to these things? Are they kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever you say, Mr. McCoy? What do they call you?
Right.
I don't know.
No, yeah, they call me. We're on a first name basis.
Yeah, okay.
But um yeah, so that's the hard thing, right? So you got to learn how to read, I guess, kids and their faces and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like sometimes when I'm talking and bringing up points, like I see the wheels spinning, behind the eyes type of thing. Like you get a sense, and then there are some kids that are just zoned out, and there could be for whatever reason. But then the next week, that kid could be, pulled in by whatever topic it was. Say, like previous week, I was talking about identity or whatnot and finding our identity. And then, like, the next week, I'm talking about a purpose. And maybe the kid that was zoning out, like, knows all the stuff about, like, who they are. They've heard all that. And then, like, they never really thought about purpose, or they've been struggling with that for whatever reason. And then that pulls them in. I think it's just like reading
Mm,
them. I think a lot of them are receptive, especially with all the confusion that's going on right now. As
yeah,
much as social media was meant, I think, to be a good thing, like as far as like bridging communication, it's turned into almost the opposite. But
yeah,
as far as like people feel more alone now, obviously, as statistics show and
yeah,
everything like that, because the phones took away that face to face, one on one conversations you get to have with people.
yeah,
And I think Jesus was a huge example of showing like just asking questions is a big thing. So I try to do that as much as I can with my lessons. And then afterwards, just asking them questions, getting them talking, if not just to me, but to one another who they feel comfortable with, like obviously. But yeah, I think youth now are more receptive maybe than we were as kids,
yeah,
because we didn't struggle with these same issues and questions
yeah,
um, that a lot of kids nowadays do, because they are being told everything as far as like you can be whatever you want. But like when you have all those options, it's just it gets confusing, and then they don't. Some people just need to be told like black and white, this is what it is, type of thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that's how my brain works, and I know that's not how everybody's works, but I
Right.
find like
Direct.
sometimes you just sometimes you just need to show them like the straight arrow, like like this is what scripture says.
Yeah.
This is why I believe it. This is why Brenda, like my other helper, other youth leader I work with, why she believes this, and getting those conversations going. I do think they have been very receptive. Like they were all on board with us doing the daily devotional and being part of a group text type of thing. So it's really cool to have been seeing that grow
Yeah.
over the last couple weeks, and we keep that open for like if they need prayer or whatever to reach out and don't feel like ashamed about it. I do feel like I get more like personal text messages versus like in the group
Yeah.
necessarily, but we are still trying to like grow them obviously and showing them that like communication with one another is just as important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Having that peer, that
Yeah.
brotherhood, or was what we would call it.
Mhm.
So you've talked about, we've talked about kind of some of the things that are going on with youth today. We talked about how the bigger church can play a role and learn to connect with the youth. I want to kind of switch gears here a little bit and talk about how the youth ministry, you got see your kids probably a couple times a week, 2-3
Mhm.
times a week. So you're not with them all the time, but the parents are. And so how can you partner with the parents? How can the parents partner with you to make sure that these kids are not just being fed on a Sunday or a Wednesday, or maybe seeing you at a football game, but that continued discipleship goes on each and every day? How do you partner with parents during that time?
Yeah, so that's actually something I'm still working through,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like I said, like a lot of my students aren't coming Sunday mornings
Yeah.
because their parents aren't churchgoers
Yeah.
or whatever the situation is. So I mean, I try to get emails and numbers from the parents so that way I do want to eventually have like a email I send from the church about like these are the topics we discussed. Give them some like things we talked about in youth if they want to bring it up with them throughout the week. I would love that
Yeah.
to keep those conversations going. Obviously, I do also want to keep the like um, how do I want to word this? Not confidentiality, but like some kids don't want their parents to know certain things they're struggling
Sure.
with. I mean, if it's like a bad thing, obviously I would let the parents know. But if it's
Yeah.
something silly like, oh, I like this person said I was XYZ,
Yeah.
and they don't want to talk to their mom and dad about it because
I eat too much chocolate cake. Yeah. Always go. My
right,
thing is to always go with chocolate cake, because then it's like, okay, that's kind of unrealistic.
right. So like
Yeah.
that, I want to eventually get like an email thing or a text, probably email, to be able to send up like follow up stuff, and then
Yeah.
also to like just connect with parents on like I don't know, even get them involved, like maybe get them involved, like showing up to youth and volunteering because we need an extra hand or whatever, or we put on an event for the students
Yeah.
randomly throughout like the week, and having volunteers help with that. And I would love that to be like the parents. And then, like I said, like doing volunteer things, I want to include the parents in those things too.
Absolutely.
Like, we we've we partner with Jimtown Pantry, which is a local organization like food bank.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna try and get the students out to there pretty soon, and I would love if their parents came with and they can kind of see what we're about and what we do as a church as a
Yeah.
whole and get them involved in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is really trying to, one, for those parents that maybe aren't saved, maybe trying to establish some sort of communication and maybe draw some interest in them. And
Yeah,
then for those who are, maybe trying to draw them in to partner with you and to be a little bit
right.
more involved with this youth, because what the youth are interested in. They're interested in this group. So how can we also encourage maybe those that are in the faith? My fear is that there are parents out there, and maybe this is an irrational fear, but that do the whole, I'm going to take my kid youth group and we're going to let them teach about Jesus, and I don't have to do anything the rest of the week. How do we encourage parents to really be involved in their children's faith journey, in their youth faith journey? Not just I took him to youth group. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Austin McCoy, he's going to take care of him. He's going to teach him the Bible. I mean, I don't really have to be involved. How do we encourage them to be like, no, like help them to see that you're the secondary source and that they should be the primary source?
Right.
What's some good ideas, or maybe your thoughts? Even they can be rambled up too. That's fine.
I think it's incredibly important, one, to pray for your kids' salvation. Yeah. That's what I do pretty much every night. Yeah. Every night I pray for my kids, and that the Lord would open their hearts and draw them. And that's one. I would say, like, read the Bible with them, and then encourage them to ask you questions. Yeah. And don't leave that necessarily to us. Yeah. As far as like ministry goes, like, and if you're growing with your kid, I think that's great too. Yeah. Like, because then you can dive into it with them. So like,
maybe have discussions together.
There are people that get saved, obviously, like, and I know, at different points in their life, and they might have teenage kids when they come to the Lord, and then they can dive in with them. And then I think the teenage kids can see that change in their parent, and then they have that interest, and maybe they can walk through learning and growing in Jesus together. I would say, don't let students or church be an afterthought or a secondary thought to other things like sports or travel ball and things. I think that's a huge thing, because you're telling your kid at that point, like,
sports are more important.
Jesus is important, but when it comes to this one thing you like a little bit more, it's going to take the cake over Jesus. So, and I know kids have practice and stuff throughout the week for things, so I'm not like completely like disregarding that, but that's why you have to also like teach your kids about Jesus on your own, because they might have like those few months where they're playing basketball and they're not at youth group, because like my youth group's on a weekday, so they have practice during that time or whatever.
Sure.
And I'm not able to feed into their life during those 3 months or whatnot. So I think it's incredibly important that they understand that they need to welcome questions with their kids. Don't be afraid of questions. The Bible has every answer to every question. It's just, you need to find it and study it and learn it. Like, absolutely, pretty much that simple.
And I want to jump in off on the back end of what you said, and it's exactly right. Is we got to understand our priorities, right? And sports and these things, these extracurricular activities are good things, right? They're not bad things, but it's just like drinking too much water. If you drink too much water, it's bad for you. Well, if you're only focused on these extracurricular activities for whatever reason, and you're not prioritizing your relationship with God, or even getting your kids into church or youth group, I think that's a detriment to not only their ability to relate to other kids in their faith, but it could be a long-term issue to where they don't view the assembly of the body as important as X, Y, Z later on in life. So I think prioritizing youth group or spending time with like-minded people, Christians, peers that are going through the faith journey as well, is super important. Not that, if you miss, you don't want to go to the legalistic route. Well, if you miss, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to guilt trip anybody.
Right, exactly. And I don't take it as you are either. But there is an important thing of really understanding that it is important to be a part of the body and to make sure God is the priority. Even if you're off doing other things, that's fine, as long as God's still your priority, not those other things. If those things become priority over God, then you got mixed up. Wow, I can't talk tonight. Mixed up priorities, and you probably need to reevaluate what's going on. So, As we start to begin to land the plane, I know these conversations go so fast. I'm sitting here looking at them like, wow,
I
we've been
know.
50 minutes already. It's crazy. This is the problem, right? This is why at one point the show was going over an hour and a half long. It's like, oh my goodness. But as we start to come down, my last question to you, and then I'm going to open it up to you for whatever you want to talk about. But my last question for you is, what is your prayer, and what should be the church's prayer for this next generation of believers?
I think the church as a whole should obviously pray for the youth, because without the youth and them coming to faith and a trust and a belief in Jesus, then your church, your local church, will die out,
Mhm.
obviously. But then other false religions will start taking its place, because they're getting sermons preached to them
Mhm.
every day. It just depends who's it coming from, right? So like it's I would just pray that the church pours into students and shows them like the importance of our faith, of our trust and belief in Jesus. It's very um, different in the Western society than other societies around the world. We don't get to see all the some of the miracles that still I heard plenty of missionaries at sea and everything like that. So like the Western culture has gotten to this point, I think, of we have an abundance of money and things that we've gotten so like secondary with faith
Mhm.
that is just kind of like, I don't know, a thing that we just say we are or do. And I would love for the church to dive and make that their number one priority, because if it's the church's number one priority in the individual lives of a Christian, then it's just going to bleed over and show the youth that the importance of it. I think
Yeah,
it just piggybacks off that last conversation we just had.
absolutely. All right. Well, let me open it up for you. Is there anything that we did not talk about, or is there something that you wanted to mention as we end the episode today, that maybe God has laid on your heart, revolving around this topic?
Um, I would like to say that I obviously am no means an expert. I'm not like I'm still completely in a volunteer position.
Sure.
I am been blessed to be able to like I am starting to take some seminary classes, and if God leads me down a path of becoming a full time, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not.
Sure. But your boots on the
But
ground right now. Your boots on the
yeah,
ground. You're in the ministry. You're doing the work. That's why I wanted to talk
right.
about
And
this.
I'm learning still as I'm doing it. So, and I like, welcome Mark to message me and other youth leaders if they have other ideas of things that can help me out,
Absolutely.
to reach
Absolutely.
these kids. But
And if there's people out there that have more questions about maybe what's your opinion on this or that, I would encourage
yeah,
you to go over to the Facebook group and again,
exactly. Yeah,
Austin's there. It's the easiest way to get a hold of him without
exactly.
his personal number.
Yeah.
So
But that, and then I just want to reiterate the parents thing is like, don't make like youth group a form of punishment. So, like, say your kid gets in trouble at school and you ground them so you don't let them come to youth group. I always think that's a bad idea, because then it's like you're taking them out of a good influence that they're going to have. So, I just always encourage people like I get your kids in like did something wrong and they're grounded, but like why are you keeping them from coming to a
yeah,
place where they're going to get taught the good news and taught Jesus and maybe help them change their life around,
yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my final thought for the episode is just to remember that how important this next generation is, and don't look at youth group as just a ministry or a building or a program.
or a
It's
club.
or a club. It's a thing. It's a gathering of believers and discipleship that is going on. And with that discipleship, you're basically discipling your youth to learn who Christ is and to learn to love him through their lifetime. And so pouring
Mhm.
into them at this age when they're learning, and then they're at adolescent stage and they're absorbing things, now is the time to get your kid involved into learning about Christ and getting and not only just them, but maybe yourself being involved, like Austin was saying, and partnering with these youth ministries to disciple kids. So that's kind of my final thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, there's nothing, I'm sure you know as an elder, there's nothing more exciting than seeing someone actually like make that connection and then jump into the faith and like
Absolutely.
accept Christ as Lord. Like
Absolutely.
knowing them before and then seeing the change. Like I have a couple students that I'm friends with. I even golf with one of them, you
Yeah.
know. And he's the coolest kid ever. He's like on fire for Jesus right now.
Yeah.
And like I knew him before he jumped into it, and like the way he acted to like just seeing that transformation. That stuff's just that's the
Absolutely.
reward of it, is just seeing them come to Christ. So
And heaven rejoices over one
Amen.
soul that is saved. And so that's such it's exactly what you said. It's a cool thing to watch the transformation in other people's lives, and knowing that Christ is the transformer, right? He's the one that will transform lives.
Yep.
It's so important to share the gospel with our youth, with even people that we work with. We're both blue collar workers, and so just sharing our faith when we can, when God opens those doors, is so important. But it's again so important to pour into our youth. We have them for a certain amount of time before they're released into the world, and I always like to equate it to it's a boot camp. Where they're in boot camp when they're in youth group right now. You're training them up, and you're going to send them out to battle. And you may not cover every scenario that's going to happen. They're going to hit the real world eventually, and hopefully the training they've gotten in the boot camp helps them survive the world, which is the way.
And that's why it's important to invite their questions, because people are going to question them for sure once they're out in the world.
And it's good to challenge their thinking too.
Exactly.
In a gentle, loving manner, challenge their thinking, because their thinking is going to be challenged.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, as we wrap up the episode today, as always, it's that favorite time, that favorite segment of some people. For me, it's getting harder and harder to come up with these fun facts, but let's dive into some fun facts with Fuller.
Time for Fun Facts with Fuller.
All right. Well, Austin, today's fun fact. Let's see if I can get my music right here. Nope, wrong one. There we go. Today's fun fact of the day is this. Did you know if you get a group of 23 people together, there's a 50% chance that 2 people will have the same birthday? In a room of 75 people, there is a 99.9% chance at least 2 people will have the same birthday. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I mean, I have kind of encountered that. Like, oh, when's your birthday?
Yeah.
That's weird. Like, that's my mom's birthday, or
Right.
like that type of thing. Like, yeah, that's funny.
It's crazy. Well, you got to think there's only 365 days. So, I mean, there's a pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot more people. So,
right. Well, Austin, again, as we said last episode, thank you so much for being on tonight and having that real conversation. And I really enjoyed the conversation tonight. Again, it's okay not to be an expert. Sometimes we just have the conversations and see where it goes. So
it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have you on again to talk about more stuff eventually. So why don't you hang out in the green room? I'll finish up here and I'll hook up with you in just a second. Okay, buddy?
All right. Thanks.
All right. And thank you guys, RTC listeners, for being so faithful week in and week out as you continue down this journey of having these real conversations in a culture and in society that is ever changing. If you haven't checked us out on our social medias already, we're on Facebook, Instagram, we're on X, although we're not very active on X. Instagram and Facebook are the most active places we're at. If you haven't joined our community page yet, Real Talk Christian Podcast Community, go over there where we continue to have conversations pretty much every day. I think we're over 1,500 people in the group right now. And so people are always constantly talking about different events and things that are going on in life right now. So if you want to be part of the real conversation, or if you want to continue on with this conversation, maybe you have a thought about youth and how we should interact with youth in the church today, head over there, join the community page and put out your question or put out your comment and let's converse about it some more. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube, head over to YouTube, Real Talk Christian Podcast, and click that subscribe button and that bell notification. So when we're on, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, you can also reach out to us at realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com. If you have not left a review, leave a review. If you need a Bible, reach out to us on that email, and we will send you a Bible. All we need is your name and address. We'll send you a Bible for free. So if you, I think that's all the things. Man, that's a lot of stuff. Anyways, we appreciate you. We love you guys. And until next time, take it easy.